So the VIA Inventory of Strengths was published by Christopher Peterson and Martin Seligman in 2017. Their approach is philosophical and humanistic, and they they start from the basis that traditional psychology classifies human deficits instead of focusing on the positive strengths and traits of the human nature. Um, they propose another approach, which is called the positive psychology, which tends to do the opposite, tends to classify positive human strengths. The approach is centered on helping people to recognize and build upon their strengths, and it intends for the client to identify their own positive traits and capitalize upon them, which in the environment of the employment counseling would mean to help the client to identify what they have in their best traits and strengths to offer to the job market and to a team of people to work with, and then start building upon what could be the decision making process, or building and constructing better strengths in order to advance in their career, or to understand themselves in order to look at what the position in their career is and where they want to go. And this means in order to build upon their goal succession. So, in 2004, Christopher Peterson and Martin Seligman, they observed that there was a lack of vocabulary to discuss measurable positive traits. Peterson and Seligman identified, organized, and measured character traits that were considered positive in a general basis, in a general population. They defined the notion of character and traits that are possessed by an individual as stable over time, but that could still be impacted by a setting, by the context, by circumstances. So these are subject to change. They brainstorm with a large set of psychologists and philosophers to examine ancient cultures and find a set of what they call core strengths. In these cultures, in these ancient cultures, they analyze their religions, their politics, education systems, and philosophy systems as well, to learn about how people had constructed the idea of a virtue over time. The virtues presented across time, they identify this set of 6 virtues that they consider now the core, and they call them courage, justice, humanity, temperance, transcendence, and wisdom. Next, they proposed a model of classification which includes horizontal and vertical components. They were following here a Linnean classification system, the system of classification of species, which ranges from the very specific to the more general and broad categories. Core values then went down in hierarchy, and character strengths, which are the psychological processes of mechanisms, were defining the virtues. The influences for this approach to psychology go from Abraham Maslow, Erik Erikson, Ellen Greenberg, Mario Hoda, Carol Reeve, and they also fed in popular culture, and this is a very anecdotal but very significant detail here. They were examining Hallmark greeting cards, graffiti, TV programs, where they identified that they could extract some of the characteristics of these core values and core systems, core strengths. From the core strengths, they identified a set of 24 characteristics that compose all the set. And for instance, for wisdom and knowledge, they examined that it was this category was composed by characteristics like creativity, curiosity, judgment, love of learning, and perspective. The courage category was composed by bravery, perseverance, honesty, and zest. Humanity was composed by love, kindness, and social intelligence. Justice is composed with teamwork, fairness, and leadership. Temperance is composed by forgiveness, humility, prudence, self-regulation. Transcendence is formed by appreciation of beauty and excellence, gratitude, hope, humor, and spirituality. The assessment is integrated by 240 item measures of 24 character strengths, 10 items per strength. There's a version that takes 30 to 40 minutes to be completed. It's available online for a cost of $20 American. The participants are asked to answer each item in terms of whether the statement describes who you are like, and it goes on in a scale from very much like me, then like me, the one that is neutral, the one that is unlike me, and the one that is very much unlike me. There's feedback provided for the signature strengths, but not for what they consider the lesser strengths. So there's a set of 24 character strengths. They will give you feedback for the top 4 to 7 that are considered your signature strengths. The Values in Action Inventory, or VIA inventory of strengths, as we said, the author is Christopher Peterson with Martin Seligman. The copyright date of it is 2017. The test purpose, as they informed you in their website, is the measure and assess only of strengths, and it doesn't make any attempt to assess weakness or deficits. The character strengths are understood as dimensions and not as nominal categories. And they are dynamic over time, as we discussed. That means that these scores and rankings can shift over time and under different circumstances. The VIA can be used with individuals to estimate the relative strength of expression of the 24 character strengths within an individual, and the individuals should not be compared with one another based on the scores they obtain on each scale, since each individual may interpret the rating in a different way. The VIA measures have a degree of error, as any other inventory or assessment tool, and that means that they are not perfect readings. The version of the version of the inventory that can be used with adults is online. It was revised in 2017. It's self-administered. The appropriate age for using it is 18 years and older. Administration, self-administered online. And there's a shorter version other than the 30 to 40 minutes that is not free. It costs $20. The shorter version is free and it takes about 15 minutes to be completed. The test scales, as we discussed, it manages these six areas of strength that are wisdom and knowledge, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. The norm says that it can be taken by anyone, in this case any adult, and there's also the aim to make it as broad and as universal as it can be. In order to accomplish that, it has been translated into 10 languages, and the researchers are encouraging people to send the results or to take the online test in their website, so they can get use of the data they are gathering to make these results even more broad. I mean, there's no expectative of making them any more accurate than a description of what is good in the life of a person. The reliability. The version in 2000 was completed by a group of 250 adults, and the alpha reliability coefficient for all scales exceeded the 0.70 measure. However, at that point, they were admitting that there's no enough statistical information of the reliability, and it's not considered that it's the data is enough to make it very precise. The Spanish version of the test reported reliability coefficients of 0.80 plus, but still they are presenting it as a test that, because of the language, should be considered beyond the country's scope. But really, even though it was applied to a sample of more than 1,500 individuals. They are all just from Spain, so it's not a Hispanic scope, the one they're approaching. It's just Spain. There are some regions of that country, which is also very diverse in itself. Still, it's a very small sample, and the results are not that conclusive. Further validity studies are undergoing. They want to make this a reliable tool, but still not yet there. The VII survey with the 240 items has moderate but growing levels of psychometric validity, meaning that it correlates reasonably well with the constructs that it would be expected to be related to, and does not correlate with constructs it should not be related, such as social desirability. So again, it's constrained to a set of philosophical values and not a set of social desirable values. The rank and the correlation between the strengths of men and women were measured, and it indicates that there was considerable convergence between the signature strengths of men and women. They were detected certain differences in character strengths, but they should be considered with caution, because the sample of the study is still more populated by male individuals than female individuals. The VIA inventory is sparking a lot of conversation. It has been reviewed by people from different parts of the world. There's an article by Samia Ben Youssef in Turkey, which presents very positive evaluations of the inventory. She says that the concepts associated with the character strengths, that are namely optimal functioning, from the beginning have been integral for an integral part of the psychology, of the positive psychology of counseling and guidance. She considered that this orientation began with the approach of Donald Soper, who considered counseling in the space of life more from beyond the angle of health and disease. She also quotes Savikas in a study where they argue that the career education and counseling help strengthen the character strengths of customers. So an inventory like this is very useful in as much as it starts a conversation about the values of a person, and it gives you a common floor to start working with. Ben Youssef also says that strength-based interventions have been conducted with different audiences and have proved their effectiveness. However, she says the interest for character strengths in the field of vocational counseling remains as an ancient study, subject study, but it